Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, so we're back again with another video, and this time we're gonna look at the Psycho Man. And Jesus, I must say that I know it's a robotic suit, but the way it's made, it just creeps me the F out. And the character model and his ability kit's actually a bit creepy as well. But yeah, we're not going to read the entire flavor text there. The important things to note at first is that his prestige is in line with whatever Kabam has been doing with prestige in recent year or so. We haven't had any high prestige champion for a while now, and this is the same. His prestige isn't bad, just not good enough to break in the top ranks either. So there's that. He is of tech class, which is fair enough because he uses technology and the robot suit to interact, and that control box is obviously some sort of tech as well. So he has access to power drain, shock, heal block, power lock, and a few other bits. One of the cooler things is kind of tauntish ability that's not taunt and that can potentially bypass debuff immunity or taunt immunity. So that's interesting. So he works with some power control and concussion abilities, but that concussion is again a bit tricky. The whole idea behind him is basically similar to Black Widow Clairvoyant, where you have 3 modes and you can shift in between them by finishing a combo with the 4th hit, and then based on which mode you grant different effects and you look out for different things. But we're gonna get there, so let's start breaking down his abilities. So potency of Psycho Man's concussions are reduced 25% flat for each unique buff on the opponent up to 3. This cannot reduce them below 0%. So basically he's not gonna be good against champions with buffs. Fairly simple, but also fairly detrimental because there are a lot of nodes that place buffs on champions, and you're gonna have to always be on lookout for that. However, the potency of Psycho Man's concussions are increased by 75% flat against mutants, and it means even if mutants have buffs, these concussions are always going to be extremely potent, and that's kind of important since he's tech champion. He's going to have like natural advantage against mutants, and yeah, he's gonna be getting a bonus against them. Right, so his combat power rate is decreased by 10%. 10% reduction isn't like the biggest deal either, and he has several ways how he can gain power besides that. So let's start with his control box. Psycho Man carries control box with 3 modes: hate, fear, and doubt, flooding his opponent's mind with the selected emotion at all times. Power control box starts in hate mode. While fighting as an attacker, Psycho Man cycles to the next mode whenever his 4th light attack lands a hit or strikes into a block. So that's very similar to Black Widow Clairvoyant. You have 3 modes, finish a combo with the 4th light attack, and you switch into a different mode. Fairly simple. This is where it gets a bit more annoying though. While fighting as a defender, Psycho Man cycles to the next mode when the opponent fills a bar of power. If the bar was filled during Psycho Man's special attacks, it cycles after the attack is finished. And that's annoying, because he's going to be consistently changing his modes. Luckily, some of the effects don't actually affect you at all, because they involve stuff like taunting or forcing opponent to play more aggressively or more passively. And obviously, you as a player are not affected by the fact that your champion has a taunt active on them. So some of the abilities obviously will still trigger, hinder you and whatever not, but some of them you take out of the equation just because you're not controlled by Psycho Man, right? And Psycho Man's abilities change depending on the current control box mode. We got that one, that's fair enough. So let's start reading what does this control box do. We have hate. Opponents fight more aggressively and suffer passive concussion during heavy charge and heavy attack, reducing ability accuracy by 75%. And here are some of the annoying bits that I don't quite like about Psycho Man at the moment, because yes, you're gonna be reducing opponents' ability accuracy quite significantly, but it's gonna be on specific things. And it's not going to be like a regular concussion, which you place with your champion on the opponent, and no matter what he does, his abilities could fail. This is somewhat similar to, let's say, Taskmaster, especially with the second part of this control box, where you want opponent to do certain things and then you want to capitalize on that. So in that sense, these mechanics are slightly similar to Taskmaster. I don't want to draw too many comparisons because these champions are wildly different, but let's carry on. So basically, when you're in hate mode, during opponents' heavy attacks, or as they are charging heavy attacks, you reduce their ability accuracy by 75%. In fear mode, opponents are 70% more likely to use a special attack and suffer a passive concussion during special attacks, reducing ability accuracy by 75%. So this mode will work as a taunt and reduce the ability accuracy of the special attack. So I think this looks like kind of like default where you want to get after you push the opponent past the bar of power immediately, and then you can maintain quite quick pace of the fight. Doubt, opponents fight more defensively are 70% less likely to use special attack and suffer passive concussion while blocking, reducing ability accuracy by 25%. Keep in mind that against mutants, this would be 100% because you gain 75% flat. In addition to that, keep in mind all of these numbers are depleted if opponents have active buffs, but this sounds like it would be a dream for invade nodes, for example. Right, let's move on to the next one. Control box all attacks. Striking the opponent while they are executing or recovering from a heavy charge or heavy attack grants Psychoman 18% of a bar of power. So this is kind of like the key bit. This is going to be how you escalate the fight quickly. If Taskmaster had exploit weakness where you deal more damage, and here basically if you compare it to exploiting whatever you wanted opponent to do based on the mode your control box is in, you're getting power instead. So the hate is the thing that reduces opponent's ability accuracy during heavy attacks, and then if you punish that heavy attack you gain 18% bar of power. Fear forces opponents to throw special attacks more willingly, and if you manage to punish that special attack you gain 25% of a bar of power. Similarly, doubt, striking the opponent while they are blocking grants Psychoman 8% of a bar of power, but again, with this one in particular, it's only 8%, but you can land like 4 hits every single time you do a dash in, and this could actually lead you to gaining quite significant chunks of power, forcing opponent to be more passive. Opponent activates a special attack, Psychoman's mechanical exoskeleton causes his opponents to suffer 1400% critical rating, minus 1400% critical rating during their special attacks. This is going to be an annoying ability on defense because you're effectively just hardly ever going to crit against the guy whenever you use your special attacks. Right. So, special one. Hate. Inflict the opponent with a shock debuff, dealing 2,300 energy damage over 6 seconds, stacking up to 6 times. Inflict an additional shock for each fury buff on Psychoman. So level 2 will give you an ability to gain furies, and this will basically inflict a bunch of shocks if you have them. We have Fear, inflict the opponent with a cowardice debuff, reducing special attack damage by 40%, which is kind of like cool, whatever, I guess it works. And then there's Doubt, this attack is passively unblockable and inflicts the opponent with a power drain debuff, depleting 30% of their current power over 6 seconds. And it's kind of easy to note these things because, as pretty much always, either with Sorcerer Supreme, one mode is basically for damage, one mode is for utility, and one mode is for like power control. Here is the same thing. Your hate mode, that's the punish heavy attack mode, deals more damage. You have your fear mode, which is punish special attacks, is the utility one. And then you have your doubt mode, which is effectively power control. And that's fairly standard kind of disposition of these characters. We have had it with a ton of champions, Sorcerer Supreme, Jubilee, and a whole bunch of others. Right. Special 2, Traumatic Experience. Hate. Psychoman gains a fury buff for 14.5 seconds, increasing attack rating by 2,300, stacking up to 2 times. These fury buffs refresh when a new one is gained and when Psychoman cycles the modes. So every time you finish a combo with a light attack, you refresh this Fury and can theoretically maintain it indefinitely, especially utilizing those taunt abilities. And yeah, that is a very solid Fury at that. So that could potentially give him some quite good amount of damage. Now we have Fear, inflict the opponent with a heal block passive for 18 seconds. I'm not the biggest fan of this one, especially because it's on level 2, but maybe it works better than I think it will. But hey, you have a heal block passive, which is a very valuable passive ability to have. We don't have too many of those in game, and it could come in handy. Now we have Doubt, this attack passively unblockable and inflict the opponent with a special lock debuff for 12 seconds. Special lock is when they also cannot use a special attack, so that's quite cool. They have the power, they just cannot use it, cannot gain any more power. It's kind of like Professor X's mind control, I think. Right, and we have special 3, inflict stun debuff and power lock passive on the opponent for 3 seconds. Oh no, this is the power lock passive, either one. And during the opponent's next special attack, they suffer passive concussion, reducing ability accuracy by 100%, and passive weakness, reducing attack rating by 50%. And this could go very well hand in hand with level 1 in the Fear mode, where you reduce additional 40% of opponent's special attack damage, and Theory, you reduce opponent's special attack damage by 90%. But that's only after level 3, and I don't think level 3 really kind of fits into his rotations too much, and yeah, I don't think it's too important. Signature ability, Microverse Overload. Whenever the opponent's ability fails to trigger while they are suffering from one of Psychoman's concussions, they are inflicted with a heal block debuff for 9.51 seconds. Cool. They are already heal blocked and have been so for at least half a second. They are power locked for 6 seconds instead. That could come in handy for sure. Whenever the opponent heals while heal blocked or gains power while power locked, Psychoman gains a proportionate amount of a bar of power, scaling up or down with how much health or power they would have gained. So that's another way how to gain power against regeneration champions. And that power lock thing actually works, I think, pretty much on anyone, because if you power locked and if you struck them, they by default would be trying to gain power. Either way, that is his kit, and all in all, I don't know, I haven't quite pieced it all together. I kind of see bits of those abilities coming together where you cycle in between those specific things and put opponent in a passive state, strike their block, gain a whole bunch of power, cycle to the next one, use a special attack, and I think it's going to be quite quick playstyle, but it's also going to be quite finicky and tricky to keep an eye on. Probably will require some significant amount of practice to get the best out of him. But there are things that I like. Those shocks that you will be placing several of once you have built up your Furies. You can build up like 2 Furies, which gain you like 4,600 attack if you have both Furies active. And for comparison, that is like 160%. So those are, I think, they're about similar level to Dragonman's Furies. And he looks intriguing. I'm gonna use the word intriguing. He has my curiosity. Because there could be some interesting things happening with him. I'm just worried that we might have another version of Jubilee where you have a jack of all trades, master of none. But champions who have power gain abilities, typically, if you know what you're doing, are able to tie their kits better together, and they are more practical to use. So I do have higher hopes for this guy, definitely, than I had for Jubilee. So we're gonna have to wait and see how it all works out. As always, these abilities do not necessarily always translate exactly from paper to the actual fight, or vice versa. So these are not final conclusions of a champion by a long stretch. This is quite the opposite, just like the initial impressions, initial breakdown, and initial thought process that's going through my head. And as I said before, I am intrigued. let's quickly go over the synergy bonuses. There's actually one synergy that I really like, and that is this one with Invisible Woman. So Psycho Man's ability accuracy reduction effects reduce ability accuracy by additional 15%. Cool. But Invisible Woman, while invisible, all attacks have a 25% chance to place vulnerability debuff on opponent. This is the key thing, because quite often when you use Invisible Woman, it's either impractical or it just invites mistakes when you're trying to dex all the time and place those vulnerabilities. But in this way, you can just take Invisible Woman, trigger the invisibility, and hit the opponent. And you're going to build up all the invulnerabilities, and all the damage output is going to come naturally. So instead of having to play Invisible Woman to a degree, kind of like Stark Spider-Man, where you have to dex on purpose a whole bunch of times and risk being punished, this synergy will change her playstyle much more similar to the one of like Aegon or Star-Lord, where you hit the opponent and stuff is happening on background and the fight is simplified 1000%. So I think if you put Invisible Woman with Dragon Man, with this guy, you can actually be a very stable high damage champion, high damage output champion, because even if you do mess up, you don't lose all of your vulnerabilities, you keep 40%, and you just re-trigger invisibility, and you keep on stacking. So I'm kind of curious, to be honest. This might be the thing that kind of forces me to take my Invisible Woman as a 5-star, well, probably as a 6-star rank, up to rank 2, and give her a test shot in like a labyrinth or something, because I think if you put Dragon Man synergy and this one together, it could be quite interesting. Now we have Pure Hatred, which is with something that's coming soon. Psycho Man, the control box is unable to cycle out of hate mode, and opponents are 20% more likely to use heavy attack. Personal shock debuff potency is increased by 60%. Personal fury buffs refresh when the fourth light attack lands. So you basically say goodbye to 2 of your modes, but thanks to the fact that you are able to refresh the furies, you can kind of just focus on the damage. So it's going to be interesting to see, well, first of all, who this synergy is with, and second of all, how this one affects his damage output. Could be quite interesting. Then we have Dinky Shrinks with Ant-Man, Wasp, and Yellow Jacket. Heavy attacks grant a non-stacking armor up buff, increasing armor operating by 60% for 600 for 10 seconds. I don't think it's important. I don't think it's a big synergy. Obviously, it can help against Havoc or something, but hey, whatever. And Ant-Man, special attack 1 inflicts opponent with 2 staggers. It's Ant-Man, so unless he gets buffed, I don't care for it. Wasp gets some block proficiency, cool. And Yellow Jacket 1. And Yellow Jacket just got buffed, so when the opponent fills a bar of power, they gain a Power Sting debuff for 8 seconds, dealing 30% of Yellow Jacket's attack as direct damage. And that could be quite interesting damage boost for Yellow Jacket, considering that is the main thing he needs. Right, and let's move on. There goes the multiverse. Deadpool, X-Force, and Man-Thing. Power, lock, and heal block effects last 15% longer. Deadpool, X-Force, heavy attacks inflicts non-stacking armor break debuff, 700 for 10 seconds. And Man-Thing gain up to, yeah, it's nothing there, and nothing too important. So, that is it for Psycho Man. Let me know what you guys think about this little creature. It's creepy as hell. I'm telling you, it gives me the creeps. But I'm interested to see how he looks on the actual battlefield, what he can, what he can't do, how fluent are his rotations, how long it takes to learn them, and how practical they are outside of Realm of Legends. But yeah, that is it for today's video, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about